And something that I wanted to show y'all, I've set up basically two radar screens, one with a higher time frame, one with the lower time frames. So at a glance, I think it's easier for y'all to understand. You can see what's going on the higher time frames, and then you would go down to the lower time frames. So in this case, you have gold, and the ADX on the 180, the 720, and the 1440 are all red. Now, because this number is 56, I know that we have magenta in the histogram bar. We're also getting a long divergence. So we could actually see a pullback in gold. Now, you can't trade that until the magenta peak comes in, and if you look in the peak column, you can see there is no peak at the moment. Now, you do want to be careful if you're trying to trade a higher time frame magenta peak, especially on the binaries, because it needs to come in before you actually can go in the binary, and then you go one level out on the binary, and I think we discussed that yesterday. You could also go down to the 45-minute chart for a Buddha trade, but again, you would wait for that magenta peak to come in. You can also see that both the 1440 and the 720 are in a congestion area. Okay, so that tells me that on the higher time frames you do have congestion. On crude, you can see that the 180 is blue, but both the 720 and the 1440 are dark red. This dark red on crude tells me there is a magenta peak in the background. Now, the column that you can't really see until I extend it is the column after the ADX, which is the RSI column. The only thing I use that for is to notice if a market is above 50 or below negative 50. Just a quick scan down through these numbers. There's nothing that is either overbought or oversold. Does everybody understand that? And that's just looking at the numbers. Are they above 50 or below negative 50? Right now, there's none in that category. That's the only reason that I use that column, okay? On the NASDAQ, you can see that you are all bright blue, but you do have a potential magenta peak here because this is dark blue with a value of 57. You're also seeing short divergence, okay? On the Dow, you're all bright blue, but there's no potential for magenta peaks. On the S&P 500, again, bright blue, no chance of a magenta peak. When you go over to the DAX, you have congestion on 3 time frames, the 180, the 720, and the 1440. The 180 is trending blue, and the 720 and the 1440 are red, but they're non-trending, okay? That means that the ADX line right now is decreasing. On the euro, you're not in a trending state on the 180 or the 720. You can also see that on the 720 and the 1440, you're in congestion. On the British pound, there probably was a magenta peak because this is dark blue at 49. That's so close to 50, I would say you probably had a magenta peak on the 180. The 720 is not trending, neither is the 1440. You're also in congestion on the 720. On the Aussie, you're trending up on the 180, you're trending up on the 720, and the 1440 has a bias to the downside, but it is not trending. You can also see that you're in congestion on the 720. Then on the Japanese yen, you're trending down on the 180. You're trending down on the 720. The 1440 is a bias to the downside, but you're not trending. It's also in congestion. On the Swiss franc, you are not trending on the 180. You are trying to trend up on the 720 and the 1440. Although it has a bias to the upside, it's not trending. You're also in congestion on the 720 and the 1440. Does everybody understand the way I just went through that? So basically, using the higher time frames, you've got a potential Buddha setup that may come in on the 720 NASDAQ. On the Dow and the S&P 500, I would be looking for long positions because all my higher time frames are trending up. So if I'm going out on dailies, it's going to be in an uptrend. Okay? All of these that have all of this congestion on it, not my favorite to trade. Congestion is harder to trade. Okay? Everybody understand that? Now, remember I said on the NASDAQ you would be looking for a Buddha trade to the downside because of this short divergence and potentially a magenta peak in the background, right? Well, if you look over here, you'll see that you just made a magenta peak on the 45 minute. Okay? So it's got 52 ticks to move downward. Okay? So if you were looking to enter the NASDAQ, you know, try to get a binary out of the money right off of that magenta peak to the downside. Okay? And this is why I use the scanner so much. It has a lot of information before you even get to the chart. So now that we know, okay, more than likely it's going to be the NASDAQ Buddha trade that we would be looking at today, we can go over and click on the NASDAQ. Okay? And you can see here's your magenta peak. Okay? You're right at an ATR here on the 3 minute. You do not have diverging volume yet. I would wait for that diverging volume, and then you have a potential entry. Does everybody understand that setup? Now, if you were to go down and look at the binaries, okay, you do have a potential here. Price is at 40.62, okay, so you could actually go down to 40.58. I wouldn't go more than one level out of the money on this one. It would be a short position with anticipation that it would retrace back to the ATR here at 40.49. But remember, this ATR will pull up towards price. What do you need me to go over again on the scanner, Chris? Can you... You really have to know all of the colors very well, Chris, okay? For example, because this is dark, it's greater than 50, I know there's a magenta peak, okay? If it's a dark color and it's, you know, a value of 26, the bias is to the downside, but it's not trending because it's a dark color. And again, if you don't know all of the colors I coded into the indicators, it would be very, very hard for you to read the radar screen. You have to know your colors. You know, the long and short divergence are pretty easy. The congestion is pretty easy. You know, this, even though the previous bar trend is white, current trend is white, but this is blue, so it tells me that the ATR is below price. Well, the first thing that I do is, okay, looking just at the radar screen and the different colors in the congestion areas, which one looks better to trade today? Those that are all blue or these that are a mixture of blues and reds? Right. All blue is probably going to be your trending markets. What's stopping the NASDAQ from trending? There's something that's stopping the NASDAQ from trending. What is it? A magenta peak on the 720-minute chart. So that tells me, okay, immediately look to the 45-minute. You look to the 45-minute, and what does it have? A magenta peak to the downside. This tells me short divergence. This tells me the market's going to go down. And then you come over here to the 45-minute, and the 45-minute is saying, okay, it's got 47 ticks to the downside. Do you understand that now, Chris? The purpose of the scanner is to identify it very quickly, and the only way to do that is to use colors. But again, you would have to know the colors and know what they mean before you could actually utilize all the information here. Okay, Mike, you're asking on time frames after reading your book on binaries, can you suggest chart time frames to consider for dailies, 2 hours, 1 hour, and upcoming 20-minute binaries? I haven't worked with the 20-minute binaries yet, Mike. My guess would be a 1, a 3, and a 12. The 2-hour binaries, you really want the 3, the 12, and the 45 with a focus on the 12-minute. The dailies you want really on your higher time frames, like 45, 180, 720 or the daily. Now, if you're just learning to trade binaries, I do suggest that you go out to dailies, focus on your higher time frames. Because, you know, there's a lot of time factor into the binaries. There's a time factor in all of trading, but, you know, really a lot on the binaries. For 1 hour binaries, I would do the 1, the 3, and the 12 with a focus on the 3. Just remember the 3-minute is going to give you 20 bars on that 1 hour binary, Mike. Now, I do go out on the weeklies. I'm out on the weekly right now on the Dow. I believe that the Dow was going to be in an uptrend because all your higher time frames are in an uptrend and there's no potential for magenta peaks, and you can see that because nothing is above 50 over here on the Dow. So trending up, I went out on the weekly, and I think I went out to 16,775, and we're already above that today. I did that one Monday morning. Yeah, I went out 16,775 on Monday at 9 o'clock. And again, it was everything's trending up. Okay, why go against that? Especially if you don't have any overextended values in here, Mike. To me, it's just going with the trend. Now, would I do that on Thursday? No, I wouldn't. The closer you get to expiration, the quicker that the value can depreciate. So, oh, I'm glad you liked it, Mike. Any other questions on the scanner window? Trading the binaries, scanners, market analyzers, all of these are your best friends. Now, the market analyzer we're still doing work on. As they make things available to us in NinjaTrader, we'll change it. All right, now on gold, remember we have on the 720, I said we're magenta here, okay? We're also at the bottom of a congestion area and we have divergence, okay? Now, I would be anticipating on gold a magenta peak, okay? And this is one, you know, this is a 720-minute chart. If I wanted to trade this in and of itself, then I would go out to the weekly mic, okay? But if I want to just trade this today, okay, I would go down to the 45-minute. Do you see how we're sitting at an ATR here? You've got two ways to trade that with binaries. You could take a spread to the upside, or you could take a binary to the upside, okay? Now, this one, if I went in it, what would I do? I would go out all day. In other words, I don't know what time that movement will come, but I expect that today we have two market reports that may generate a lot of movement in the markets. We have, let me see, we have core durable goods coming out in 15 minutes, and then we also have CB consumer confidence coming out at 10 o'clock, okay? So you could take that one on gold as either a spread opportunity or as a binary or both, depending on your level of experience. Now on gold, they do have a spread available at 12.10 that's going to give you a lot of risk though. They have one at 12.30, which means it's got to move $3 before it really goes into the money. Not like in the spreads this morning. So that's when I would go down to the binaries and say, okay, what do we have daily on the binaries that I could potentially make money at? Right now, price is at 27.5. So the closest one would be 25, then you have 28. You could go up to 31. Okay, again, gold only moves about $1.50. So if you go out to 31, you've gone out too far. So you would have to go to 28. Premium on 28 right now is 51. And that's just saying that you believe gold will be above 28 by 1:30 today. Okay? Any questions on that? And I would put in a profit target on that. Let's go and look at crude. Okay, you are going down here, you're going down here. Bias is to the downside. It's not really trending to the downside. You are approaching a congestion dot on crude 180. It's got about another 50 cents before it gets to the congestion dot on the 180-minute chart. Could you come down and say, okay, we're retracing right now back to this ATR. We could look here and say, okay, if it comes back to this ATR, I would take an out of the money to the upside on crude. Yes, you can, because it should come back to 82.01. Just be aware that you are at 55 over here, okay? That's the only thing you need to be aware of, because you can get a magenta peak over on the 12-minute chart. Any questions on that one? As it stands right now, you have healthy volume over on the 45-minute. Remember, do not look at this volume bar. You're judging from the previous volume bars. And of course, the volume is increasing on the highs. I had to think there for the word. Any questions on crude this morning? Okay, let's go look at the NASDAQ. And on the NASDAQ this morning, you do have this magenta peak, okay? Now, this is something that you cannot see over here in the scanner window. See, you've got short divergence, and this is dark, tells me there's a magenta peak, right? When you pull the chart up, what's the first thing that should stand out at you? The first thing that should stand out at you right now is this is a flat magenta peak, okay? That means that it would go back and test this high, which is already done, before it starts to come down. Do y'all understand that? It seems the binary in the spread combination could finance the spread or cover the cost of the spread if the spread does not move as expected. Yeah, it can very easily, Mike. Okay, any questions on the NASDAQ? I do expect the NASDAQ to pull back to the ATR at 4051 over on the 45-minute chart. Then we would have to see what happens with the volume, because right now as it stands, there's just not a lot of sellers in the market. But that bar just now started building. So, okay, let's go look at the Dow. The Dow is just up, 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 up. We do have a congestion dot up here on the 1440 at 17,075. Okay, there's no potential magenta peak here. We do have a magenta peak now on the 45-minute Dow. Okay, so that means that if this comes back and tests this ATR and does so on the Virgin volume, you could actually take a binary to the downside. This binary would be between the 3 and the 45, and I would like to go out at least 2 hours on that binary, okay? 2 hours gives you 40 bars for that binary to move in your direction. Does everybody understand that? Okay, let's go look at the S&P 500. And it's pretty much the same thing. You're trending up. You do have a congestion dot up here at 1994, but you're trending up, trending up, trending up. This one is now pulling back to the ATR on the 45-minute. Again, that means that you should get a magenta peak here. It should come back and test this. If it comes back and tests this on diverging volume, then you could take that trade. And what it is, it's trying to clear the ATR on the 12-minute, okay? Let's go look at the DAX this morning. Again, on the DAX, it's trying to flip the ATR, and if it flips the ATR, you do have a congestion dot at 9302.2. You also have a congestion dot on the 720 at 9134. You have an ATR right up above you on the 180. So in this case, I would be anticipating a magenta peak right now on the 45-minute. Any questions on that one? So initially, I think you're probably going to be going short on the DAX. You do have diverging volume as this is approaching that ATR, and there's only another 30 minutes for that to complete. So that's probably going to end up being divergence. You've got 180 minutes. There's only 35 minutes left in that bar. You're probably going to get divergence. In the 8:30 report, well, it could change it. I doubt that it does. Any questions on the DAX? Yeah, you need it to flip on the ATR 3-minute, okay? And then it would have to go back and test that on the 3-minute. Now, could you go out on a daily or on a weekly saying, okay, I think this is going to come down off of the 180? Yeah, you could, depending on what the prices were on the weekly. Prices at 90.38. The closest I can get would be probably 89.25. You could go in that one for about 34 bucks. And then that's on a weekly. Okay, this is not something I'd be watching a 3, a 12, and a 45 on. Okay, now let's go out to look at the euro. And on the euro right now, we're bouncing up from the ATR. We do have an ATR right up above us over here on the 720. We have an ATR that is supporting price on the 180, but we have an ATR that's blocking price on the 45-minute. Not something I really want to trade. It's too much in the way. Okay, do y'all see that? There's resistance. There's support, there's resistance. Not an area I want to be in. Let's go look at the British pound. And remember I said there probably was a magenta peak in the background on the British pound. This is the magenta peak that came in. It has retraced back to the ATR. So the ATR is supporting price to go up, but you have an ATR here that is preventing price from going up. Okay, you also have an ATR right up above you on the daily and a congestion dot over on the 720. You know, again, this is congestion and this is conflicting. This is supporting, this is resisting. Not an area I would really want to go in right now. Any questions on that? If you're going in these, you're fighting this ATR and you're fighting this ATR. It doesn't make good sense to do that. Let's go over and look at the Aussie. Now, the Aussie's got an ATR right up above it on the 1440. It's got a congestion dot above price over here. Everything else is up, up, up. So, now this one, because you don't have any resistance until it gets to 88.49 or 88.30, which is about 30 ticks away, could you do a binary on that, like on the 2-hour or the daily? You could. You could go out until 3 p.m. and say, okay, I believe that it's going to at least get back to the ATR on the daily. It's about 30 ticks away right now. The Aussie only moves 71 ticks in a day. Okay? Everything is saying up, up, up. You had volume divergence here. So could you have said, hey, I think this is going to be above 88.06 by 11 a.m. or by 3 p.m. today? Yeah, you could. Does everybody understand that one? Now, what did it take to know that? It took knowing how much the Aussie typically moves in a day. And, you know, this is something we really went over extensively yesterday because you've got the price and then you have the time component on binaries, okay? Knowing what's at the money and knowing what's out of the money, okay? How much does it have to move to get at the money, okay? And I did get the video uploaded today from yesterday. So if y'all want to go back and rewatch it, you'll be able to, okay? Any questions on the Aussie? The market report must have come out. Yeah, it came in at negative 2%. So, you could say that it's sort of like the Keltner channel, Mike. The difference is, I think the true range actually captures price movement better even than the Keltner channel does. And what we're doing is taking the average true range and multiplying it by a factor and then taking a standard deviation of it. So in that way, yeah, it's sort of like a Keltner channel. Oh, it's not a problem, Mike. Not at all. That's the reason I do the room, is so people can ask questions. Now, for those that were in the session yesterday, notice that if you had gotten in here, and let's just use this value at 8806, and I know that, wait a minute, I'll tell you. There was an 8,800 on the Aussie dollar this morning, and that was very close to the ATR range. You would have went one strike price out, which would have been 88.20, expiring at 3 p.m. today, okay? Now, because this has moved up so much, that one bar probably gave you your profit target. I don't have it open this morning, Chris. And I don't, yeah, I do. Give me just a minute, Chris. I'll go over it from the slide that I showed yesterday. All right, and this is a great example, Chris, okay? If you're going out to 88.20, okay, you're expecting price to move just under 20 pips on the Aussie. So if you look on this, the range for the last 90 days was 71 pips on the Aussie. So is it reasonable to expect the Aussie to move 20 pips? Yes, it is. Okay. So that would be a good trade. But if I had to go out 60 pips, would that be a good trade? No. Because you're expecting more movement than typically would happen in a day. Because remember, in order to get at the money, okay, it's going to have to move that full 60 pips. Could it? Sure it could. Okay. There's a lot of things that could happen. Okay. I like a little bit better odds than that. Okay. Does everybody understand that now? For example, let's say that we looked at the DAX and we said, okay, we're going to go out 300 points on the DAX. It doesn't make sense to do that on a daily. Okay? Because daily, it only moves about 141 points. All right. So let's go look at the yen this morning. Remember, the bias on the yen is to the downside. You're in congestion here. You have a congestion dot at 91.69. You have an ATR at 94.09. You have an ATR here at 93.30. You're also in congestion here, the congestion dot at 93.06. Okay? Until it gets to this congestion dot or this ATR, I would not even consider taking a position on the yen. It's really that simple to me. Any questions on the yen? Now the Swiss franc is one I like to trend trade, and on that one I'm usually out a little bit longer. You can see that we're on the congestion in the 1440. You know, you could have taken a weekly on this actually yesterday to the upside. It would have to clear the ATR here with increasing volume. That's what you would expect it to do. You bounce back to the ATR this morning and buyers controlled the bar. You did have an ATR here that was preventing it, okay? So to me, the Swiss franc is more longer term. These are the ones I do dailies and weeklies on. Catching this one, you could have went out on the weekly. And that's really the only thing I see on the Swiss franc. Let's go back and let's look at what the Dow's doing. The Dow, you're going to start probably moving up to this ATR. That's what I would anticipate. You're going to get a magenta peak here. That retracement has already completed. I would wait for this ATR to flip and a test of the ATR if I'm trading a 3-minute. On the 12-minute, when this bar finishes, if it still has divergence and there's still another 10 minutes, you could actually take a binary to the upside. With increasing volume at the ATR on the 720, yes, I would have. Increasing volume tells you they're going to flip the ATR, correct? Do you like looking at futures like the 6F and trade the inverses, USD, CHF, and NADEX? Yeah, I actually do. Now, I do a lot of times still look at the spot Forex, Mike, and I use the Ninja Trader platform for my spot Forex. Any other questions this morning, guys? Usually I go by the futures for the volume mic, but now we can use tick count on the spot side. They did this huge study, and it's about 95% is accurate according to the study. What was important to me was that the patterns are the same, and typically they are. Now, it is important that when you're doing the Forex pairs that you find the at the money if you're using the futures, because futures is not necessarily the same price as the spot. Chris, did you understand about the Swiss franc? Okay. Any other questions this morning, guys? Remember, tomorrow morning at 11:30, we are having a Ninja Trader in the room. You do have to sign up for that one. I think if you go to the website, let's see. It will have to be this afternoon, Chris. Let's see. Let me get the right link up and I'll show you how to sign up for it. Okay, if you go to the website and go down to Special Ninja Trader Presentation for the blog, okay, you can sign up for the Ninja Trader presentation that will be held tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. 4 o'clock's fine, Chris. Can you discuss content and cost for paid memberships in different levels? Let's see. Let me go to the regular website. Which version or which trading platform do you have, Mike? Okay, Mike, you really need to email me. We're having a great Ninja Trader special. It's not started yet, but if you email me, I'll tell you the special. All right, but, and I'll go over what's in that package because that's the package you're going to want. I can already tell you. It will be the silver package, and let's see, this one. And now the silver package normally includes the ADX, the trend ATR, the RSI, the meters, the directional volume, the clipper, the trading videos, and the trade flow. The Ninja Trader special also includes the THD zones and the annual membership, and it's cheaper than the price I've got listed here. That's the reason I said email me, Mike. It pretty much includes everything that we have to offer, including all the webinars that I have in the next 12 months. Okay. Now, it doesn't include the divergence indicators because those are only available for TradeStation and multi-charts. So the webinar that I just did yesterday, Mike, on options, you would have access to. Now, the way that the site works, this is the main site where we sell the indicators and all. Then we have the blog, and you do have to sign up for the blog. You do a free membership, and then I upgrade you to an annual membership once I receive it. Okay? And we've got, God, it's over probably 40 hours of training on the site. When you buy the indicators, we have training for NinjaTrader, TradeStation, and multi-charts, all of the indicators, the trade setups, binary options. We've got over 700 articles on that site. And the easiest way to maneuver it is through the search option. And again, if anybody's in the room, they are thinking about purchasing, send me an email so you get the special price. I'm not sending out an email on it. Does that answer your questions, Mike? And that's a special arrangement that I have with NinjaTrader. So, and I don't want someone to pay full price when I know it's going on special in 3 days. My email address is gm, like Gail Mercer, at tradershelpdesk.com. Okay, any other questions this morning, guys? All right, if there's no other questions, I'm going to go ahead and end the session this morning. I hope everyone has a wonderful trading day, and we'll be back tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock.